Okay, here is exponential parent graphs. So as of right now, we have seen exponential equations that look like, let's say you had, y equals, 3 to the x. That's a typical exponential, it's a very basic exponential. But a parent graph is a parent graph can be for anything, for exponential, linear, quadratic, cubic, anything. The key to a parent graph is it has all of these extra pieces that can be added to the equation to do a bunch of things, from stretching it to compressing it to moving it up, down, left, right. So a parent graph allows for multiple things to be added to the equation. For example, like if you were to change a to an exponential, that either would shrink it or stretch it out. That's what a does. But today we're going to talk about what does the letters h and k do. And it turns out that h and k come up quite frequently in algebra, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calculus, all the way up. H and k, you see the same h and k. And the h and k do the same thing no matter what math class you are doing. Okay, and that's what these we're going to talk about down here. We'll talk more about these parts a little bit later. But today we're going to focus on just what do h and k do as part of this function. So if we take our function, our original function up here, and we maybe add a plus 2 in the exponent and maybe a minus 4 down here, we've now added an h and a k. So what does that do to the original equation? The original equation was 3 to the x. What does that do? It turns out h and k shift our exponential. Okay, h is a horizontal shift, which means h will either shift it left or shift it right. And I know this is going to seem confusing and backwards in a way, but if h is positive, if you have a positive h, it actually will shift the exponential to the left. So a typical exponential looks like this. So if we were to have a positive h, like we do here, it would shift it to the left 2 units. So it would look something like this, where it's been shifted over 2 units. Okay, that's what h does. H shifts it left or right. If it's positive, it shifts it left. If it's negative, it shifts it right. So now let's look at, erase that. Let's just erase the whole thing. Okay. Now let's look at k. K is the vertical shift. K will shift it up or down. So if we look at 3 to the x looks kind of like that. If k is positive, if this is positive, it's going to shift it up. If it's negative, it's going to shift it down. Since we have a negative here, it's going to shift it down 4 units. So it looks something like this, shifting it down 4 units on a graph. Same graph, just shifted. And that's the thing, the point here is that all of this is just shifted, okay, and not changed in any way. All it is just shifted. So let's get rid of all these things here. Delete. Delete. There we go. Okay, so let's look at some examples. So here, if we scroll down a little bit, you have your parent function. So here is the original function, f of x equals 2 to the x. Let me write that bigger so you can see this. f of x is 2 to the x. Now what happens if we add a plus 4 into the exponent and a plus 2 here? Well, if we go back up here and understand what h and k do, this is h, this is k. If h is positive, it shifts it left. So what this is going to do is shift the graph left, and since it's a 4, it'll shift it left 4. Now also, there's another shift, and this is K. K is a positive 2, so what does that do? Well, if we go up here, it says a positive K shifts it up. So what's going to happen here is it will also not only shift it left, but also shift it up 2. So think of it, a graph being on a piece of paper, and you just sliding it left 4 and then sliding it up 2. Okay, and that is what the graph's going to look like. It doesn't change the graph. The graph looks identical to the original. It's just been moved over and up, actually. So now let's look at the next one. Okay, the next one has a -2 there and a +6. So H is negative. So we go up here. H negative means shifts it right. So this is going to be shifted right 2. And then since our K is also positive again, that means it's going to shift it up 6. So shift up 6. And this is all you need to know as far as H and K. You're going to get a lot more of this when you get into Algebra 2 and Pre-Calculus. But all we need to know is what are H and K and what do they do to the graph. H shifts it left or right, depending if it's positive or negative, and K shifts it up or down, depending on whether it is positive or negative. Now, next ones. Here they have a -5 as H and a -3 as K. The negative for H up here means it shifts it right. So shifts right. And it's a -5, so shifts right 5. And since the K is -3, that means it shifts down, so shifts down 3. Sorry for the handwriting. Now sometimes it's not shifted in both directions. So you can look at this one. This one only has an H. It does not have a K. It just has an H. So this is only going to be shifted in one direction. So this will be shifted. Since it's a positive H, it's going to shift it to the left. So shifted left 1. And that's it. There's no K, so it's not going to be shifted vertically. And then number 5, I give you the original equation. There is no H and no K. Therefore, there is no shift. To try some on your own, go ahead and try those 5 on your own. Pause the video, write your answers, and then play the video when you're ready to check them. Okay, so here are your answers. Number 1 should have just been shifted up 1. Since there is no H, there is not going to be any horizontal shift. It's just shifted up 1. Number 2, the -2 for H, it means it's shifted right 2. And +4 for K means it's shifted up 4. So right 2, up 4. Number 3, since it has a positive H, it's shifted left 3 and down 7. Left 3, down 7. Number 4, all it has is an H, no K. So it's going to only shift to the right 1. It will not shift up or down. And number 5, shifted, since it's a positive H, it's shifted to the left 5, and -3K means it's shifted down 3. Okay, that's it. That's all you really need to know about this. If you don't believe me or you want to try this out on your own just to see, go into Desmos, the Desmos app, plug in f of x, you don't need to put f of x, you can just put y equals 3 to the x. Put that into Desmos, see the original graph, and then try putting in each of these separately and see how it changes. Does this shift? This should shift to the left 2, down 3. So plug this in and then plug this in as the second equation and see if it does shift left 2 and down 3. Should be the same graph, just shifted over 2 and down 3. Same thing with this one. This one should be shifted right 4 up 1, and this one should not be shifted left or right at all, just down 4. Check those in Desmos so you can see what I mean. If you have any questions, send me an email or a message on Canvas.